Now we are going to hear a presentation prepared for us by Miroslaw Rucki.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am very glad to have an opportunity to present my thoughts at this conference. Let's start sharing my presentation. I am from Poland, Casimir Pulaski Radom University. My name is Miroslaw Rucki. I have a PhD degree in engineering, in social science, and in humanities. And the Bible is one of the most important points of my interest, also in scientific terms, in research terms. I would like to share with you my thoughts about naturalistic explanation of the miracle. Is it satisfactory? And I will give you an example of the man born blind described in the Gospel of John. Now we start with introduction. First, naturalism rejects the possibility of something being explained separate from the material reality given in empirical cognition. And English word miracle means, according to the Longman Dictionary, an action done by especially a holy person that is impossible according to the ordinary laws of nature. But logically, since supernatural explanation is not acceptable, there are no miracles. Thus, facing an obvious miracle, we are forced to pretend that it is a natural thing, while we just don't know exactly which natural law was involved. This applies also to the concept of evolutionary origin of species. No reliable mechanism of transition between locomotion of vision systems was proposed, but creationist explanation is refused to be widely accepted. I have published several scientific papers formulating the questions about it, but so far no satisfactory explanation of transition. This sort of transition is technically impossible according to our best knowledge, but it is still believed that there should be a naturalistic explanation. About miracle, I would like to share with you definitions which are valid in Polish language. In Polish, miracle we call cud, and it is defined in several ways. One of definitions is that miracle cud is unusual thing or phenomenon causing amazement, admiration. Just focus, focus, abracadabra, and we have something amazing, and it's a miracle. But another definition, it was the first, by the way, it is that miracle is a phenomenon that, according to the religious belief, cannot be attributed to the laws of nature, but can be explained only by God's intervention. Why we have some problem with this sort of definition? Because now our concept of miracle is in the defensive position. We always have to look for explanation of our religious beliefs. We believe in something and it's a given thing, and then we should explain why we do believe that it is a miracle. However, I think it's not a good position for explanation for miracles. And that's why I refer to the experience which lays behind the miracle. In Hebrew, the true context of the term miracle is a confrontation that might have led to the massacre of the Jewish people in Egypt in the very beginning of formation of Hebrew people, Jewish people, We remember there were 10 plagues over there. And formally, all these things, these plagues, everything what happened, including crossing the sea, were possible naturally. And nobody had to explain them from the religious perspective. Things happened, and people had to face this problem, and they did not need to explain it from the perspective of religion of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yes, so you can see here that the true context gives us completely different perspective on a miracle. What made up the miracle was following. First, the events were announced. Next, the events happened exactly in the way they were announced. Next, the events delivered certain message. It was a message about judgment, about freedom, and so on, about God, about relationship between people and God. And nobody was able to imitate them. From a certain point, first the magicians were able to imitate the miracles, the plagues, but then they were unable, and they recognized that it was God's thing. And in this way presented, the events were called signs and miracles, in Hebrew, ototum ophetim. We can read, and the Lord showed signs and wonders, great and sore, upon Egypt, upon Pharaoh, and upon all his household before our eyes. Here we can see signs and wonders. In other translations, we can find the word miracles. And what is the most important, that the supernatural event without meaning is not covered by the original biblical term of miracle. Is it mofet, nes, pele, or anything else? It is not a miracle if there is no meaning behind the supernatural event. This is important difference between English definition and Polish definitions of the miracle and the word miracle used in Hebrew text. So it was not about supernatural. It was not about amazing things. It was not about explanation of old beliefs forwarded from Abraham and the other ancestors. It was about interaction, relationship, and power. It was about life and death, because if Jewish people would not obey this, they would die. No naturalistic explanation of the event seems to be satisfactory, because we have a complex thing with events and experience, and not only just supernatural thing. So it defined a miracle as a real event previously agreed upon and announced, and then carried out and experienced by many. It was manifestation of God's power with certain message. So we can look from this perspective to the example of the man born blind. In the Gospel of John, chapter 9, there is an account of what happened with the man born blind after he met Jesus Christ. This miracle was announced. Next, the message was formulated. Then, repeatable actions were carried out. Jesus took some mud, made something, put it on the eyes of the blind man, and these actions are repeatable. Anybody can do that. But these actions were forbidden for humans. Or from the perspective of Judaism, only God was able on Sabbath do these things. So, making these actions, Jesus clearly indicated his identity of God. And the unique effect, impossible to imitate by anyone, appeared. People can repeat actions, but the effect was not repeatable. So understanding of the actions implied the understanding of the message. Yeah? You can see that without the message, without meaning, this all didn't make sense. And message, since it was unacceptable for the Pharisees, they looked for a naturalistic explanation. They had interesting procedure, interesting way to reject, to deny the message. First, they decided that no healing took place at all. Next, they decided the man had not been blind. Jesus had no power to heal on Sabbath, and of course, God was not behind the miracle because Jesus was unable to heal on Sabbath and no healing took place at all. But none of their explanation matched the observed facts. Facing the testimony received from witnesses, including the healed man, Pharisees decide that he was a sinner and casted him out. This was not derived directly from the fact observed by the Pharisees. In fact, they themselves did not consider their own naturalistic explanation satisfactory because they did not match the facts. And that's why they decided, you are a sinner, go away. It was not connected with their explanations. Methodologically, they performed correct procedure, looking for the explanation. We have facts. The man was born blind. People knew him, his parents knew about that. Then we have Jesus, who performed some actions. The man experienced something. People witnessed this. And next we have the effect that the man was able to see. How to check this? The Pharisees performed correct steps, undertook correct steps to verify this. First, verification of the initial state. They asked parents, people, and the man if it's a true statement that he was born blind. But having a positive answer, they did not agree with it. Next, they did make verification of the action. What did he do to you? He asked him several times how it happened that you can see now. And they were not satisfied with what they heard. And they tried to verify the final state. How is it possible that you can see now? What do you say about him? So you can see that the procedure is correct. Verification of all three stages: initial state, action, and the final state. But the denial of the facts is not methodologically correct. Results were rejected at each stage due to previously assumed rejection of the announcement and the respective semiotic meaning. We don't want this meaning, so we reject the facts. since there is no point to perform a miracle with no meaning from the Hebrew perspective of a miracle, they refuse to recognize the miracle, denying all the facts. Since naturalism rejects any meaning, sense, and purpose of natural laws are purposeless, senseless, and their effects as well, any of naturalistic explanation of a miracle is unsatisfactory by definition. So we can draw the conclusions as follows. In Christianity, a miracle is about relationship, power, and meaning. It's not just a supernatural thing that is amazing and so on. In naturalistic worldview, nature has no meaning, no purpose, and requires no personal interrelation. So, naturalistic explanation of a miracle rejects meaning, while it is its main part. Main part of a miracle is its meaning, and naturalistic explanation rejects its by definition. As such, it cannot be satisfactory, even though the event itself could find reasonable explanation in the laws of nature, like it can be applied to at least some plagues that happened in Egypt. And in turn, the meaning and the message of a miracle can be analyzed only when all possible naturalistic explanations of an event are considered. So, when it comes about exploration of miracles, a hypothesis of supernatural is at least as reasonable as the one based on an unknown law of nature, which is quite commonly made, rejecting also always hypothesis of supernatural. But otherwise, the reasoning may become a denial of a fact, like it was in the case of the man born blind. Thank you very much for your attention. That's all from my presentation. I'm sorry how to turn this off. I'm not sure. Yes, I find the button. Thank you very much again.
Thank you for listening to this presentation of Miroslaw Rucki. Thank you very much for your attention.